news. Presidential election 2024 is already experiencing some problems. But before we get started with this demonstration, let me read my copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everything that you hear in this video that I call a demonstration is only the opinions of mine and others. Everything that you hear in this demonstration is only allegedly. Salute to the replay gang. Salute to everybody that's watching from the clouds. Salute to all of my moderators. Salute to my angels, my troublemakers. Salute to all of my subscribers, old and new. Salute to you, him, and her. Salute to the whole Rock Squad. Appreciate you all for pulling up. I'll salute individually, and then we're going to just jump straight into this demonstration. Salute, Miss Parker. I see you. Salute, Sagas 01. I see you. Salute, Marco. Marco says the man behind the curtain is merely an illusion. All right, y'all. This is the moment that we all been waiting for. Salute, Davon. Salute, Davon. It's here. It's here. Trump, let me backtrack. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is running for the 2024 presidential election. Let's give them a round of applause, y'all. Let's clap for them. Let's clap for them. Let's clap for them. All right? Let's clap for them. Look, whether you disagree with them, whether you agree with them, you got to give hands to them. I think that they both did a good job as far as campaigning. I think Kamala Harris got her point across. I think Donald Trump got his point across. I believe that they both got their points across. Now, it's not up to me, you know? So we're just going to jump straight into some of the coverage, and we're going to see what's exactly going on. All right, y'all? Let's jump to some coverage.
At 7 p.m., the polls close in Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia.
So at 7 o'clock, she's saying the polls are going to close in Vermont, Indiana, Kentucky, Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. At 7 o'clock, those polls are going to close.
At 7 p.m., the polls close in Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. At 7:30, polls close in North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia.
At 7:30, the polls are going to close in North Carolina, West Virginia, and Ohio at 7:30.
At 8 p.m. is huge, with 171 electoral votes at stake. The polls close in Alabama, Connecticut, D.C., Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, if you're keeping up with me, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Tennessee. And at 8:30, one state, Arkansas, closes its polls. 9 p.m. is the other key poll closing time with 163 electoral votes at stake. Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming, all closing up shop. And at 10 o'clock, polls close in Nevada, Montana, and Utah. Also at 11 p.m., California, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, all their polls close at that time. And take a look at this. Hawaii also wraps up at midnight tonight. And last but not least, Alaska wraps up at 1 a.m. And we will be there with live coverage throughout the night. Wall Street Journal senior political reporter Molly Ball joins us now for more insight on this historic election. The Harris campaign says voters are tired of the Trump message. Do you think that this is a race? That's a referendum on the former president, Molly?
I do. I think you hear that from both sides of the aisle, whether you're speaking with Trump and his supporters or Harris and her supporters. And this is why she has made this the central theme of her campaign, this idea of turning the page on what she describes as the Trump era, a sort of divisive, decade-long era in our political life. She is betting that Americans broadly want to turn the page and move forward from that. Of course, there is a very large segment of the electorate that says, no, that's what we want to go back to. That as chaotic and tumultuous as Trump's governance sometimes was when he was president, people look back on that as a time when they were more prosperous, when they felt more secure. So, for many of Trump's supporters, the Trump era is a time that they look back on with a lot of affection, and they do want to go back to that. So having, a former president in the race and a quasi-incumbent in the race, it really does offer voters a choice between two presidencies that they know pretty well.
Now we got to keep in mind, y'all. We got to keep in mind. You got the popular vote. Remember, Hillary won the popular vote, but then you got the electoral vote, that college electoral vote that Trump won. So remember, y'all, she may win the popular vote or he may win the popular vote, but that electoral vote is still out there, which I never understood and I still don't understand.
Security preparations already underway in Washington. Now, Molly, there are concerns the former president is going to start spreading misinformation and declare victory if he sees he's behind in the polls. What are you looking for in the hours before and after the polls close tonight?
Well, of course, we're all going to be watching for any kind of irregularities or problems with the vote. I would encourage people to look to trusted sources on that and not believe potential information that is coming from politicians who have an interest in the outcome, and instead, listen to their local officials, listen to the media that they trust. I think we're all going to be looking at turnout. We're now looking at what seems to be a pretty high turnout situation, people surging to the polls, long lines in a lot of battleground states. But it's as the hours go on and we get closer to the poll closing time that we get a sense of whether it really is a high turnout election across the board, or whether we're seeing, lower high turnout in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas, and all of those are going to have a big impact on the final outcome. And then after the polls close, I think we're going to be watching the count very carefully to make sure that everything is okay there and there are no disruptions. And then we all want to know who wins, and that's the biggest thing we're all watching for.
That's going to be the biggest thing that we're watching for. Salute to the chat. I do see everybody down there. Now, as y'all can see, security is tight. Security is tight because there have been, some folks that have been, posting to their social media accounts, if this candidate don't win, then, people better be on the lookout. People better make sure they don't come outside and, crazy things like that. Hey, regardless who wins, let's refrain from the violence. We don't need to resort to any violence. But as y'all can see, if y'all want to get out here and if y'all want to act a fool, they got places for those that cut a fool. At the end of the day, it's just not worth it, y'all.
Yeah, let's look at the kind of the big picture in all of this. More Americans feel the country will be damaged if their candidate loses this election. Is this anxiety driving people to the polls, do you think?
It certainly seems to be. In our Wall Street Journal poll that came out recently, we found that 87% of voters believe the country will suffer permanent damage if their candidate does not prevail. Only 10% said no to that question. So there really is a feeling that the stakes are extraordinarily high in this election. And talking to voters as they go to the polls in various locations across the country, that is something I've heard over and over again, that people feel that our very democracy is at stake, that everything rides on this election, that it is not a normal election that will simply determine, which way we go in terms of policy for the next 4 years, but really a sort of existential question that will determine the nation's future. There's a feeling that today is sort of a hinge point in history, and which outcome we get from this election is going to determine a starkly different future depending on how it goes.
Will we make history? Will we witness the first female president of the United States of America? Somebody let me know. Will we be making history? Huh? Will we be making history? Are we about to witness the first female president of the United States of America? I see y'all down there in the chat.
Making of the president 1960, an estimated 79 million Americans have already cast a ballot. And today, those who will vote in person will add their voice. Polling places in some states are all.
Wow. Do y'all see the count of early votes? Do y'all see the count of the early voters? Wow.
Already open at this hour and in a race that most believe is the closest in U.S. election history. It was only fitting that residents in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, who cast their ballots for president shortly after midnight, went with an even split.
And what I'm going to do is, early on, I'm going to take y'all comments. Come on and drop y'all comments while I'm right here. If y'all got any comments for the old man, drop some comments. Salute Still Swinging Podcast. I see you. Drop y'all comments. Salute me. Salute Davon, Adrian. I see y'all down there. Sagas. I see y'all, Tracy. I see all of y'all. Drop some comments. Make sure y'all double tap the screen. We got 100 people watching with only 11 likes. Double tap the screen, y'all. Double tap the screen for me. Double tap the screen. Davon says, I don't believe in Trump. Ms. Parker says, did you vote today? If so, who did you vote for? It's here, y'all. It's here. It's here. And it snuck up on us like a thief in the night. I remember it was the presidential. Y'all remember when we was going over the presidential debate? Davon says, I did vote. Me says, I don't think it matters who wins. We get screwed regardless. Salute, Seth. Saga says, now you know, Shank, it's going to be big. It's going to be bad. Wait a minute, Sagas. Now you know, Shank, it's got to be bad when the Quakers, O'Reillys on horse and buggies with Trump's son on their buggies. Seth says times fly by. Drop a one if y'all can hear me. Drop a one if y'all can hear me. Drop a one if y'all can hear me. All right. I see you, Miss Groovy. All right, let's get back. I see you, Brother Nazir. Brother Nazir says, I don't think that the people will make history, yet the people who are in charge who will choose who they want to run their corporation. Seth says it only cut out for a second for me. Okay, appreciate y'all. All right, let's get back, y'all. Let me. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, still Still, yeah, but I'm looking at the margins here. I mean, it's not a blowout here when it comes to immigration. As we were talking, Hallie, I kept looking over at Christine Romans, and I'd like to get to Christine Romans right now because she has a lot of data on the U.S. economy, and it's sort of fascinating, right, Christine? Christine, walk us through what we see there and what you're seeing in these exit polls.
I know Tom sees me geeking out over here.
No, it's fascinating.
I love it. It really is. So the condition of the U.S. economy. And remember, these are people who actually voted. I think it's really important to make that distinction again. We've been asking people in opinion polls for 2 years now about how they feel. These are people who actually.
Can y'all hear me? Drop a one if y'all can hear me. Drop a one if you can hear me, brother Nazir. Drop a one if y'all can hear me.
Not so good to poor. Look at that number. 67% there. That's a big number. That's the biggest number we've seen in terms of poor and not so good in the last 3 or 4 cycles here. Only 5% say excellent, which is pretty interesting. Only 28% say good when there are all these top line economic numbers that have been so consistently strong. But this is exactly what we've been hearing from people for so long. They just feel like the economy is not working for them, guys.
So, Christine, no surprise there. You're about 67%, right? People thinking the economy is not that great. But you're saying that tracks with what we've seen all year. What else have we learned?
Well, we've learned also family finances compared to 4 years ago. Think about 4 years ago what was happening. People were voting in masks or they were trying to figure out how to social distance. This broadcast was very different 4 years ago than it is today because we were in the middle of a coronavirus pandemic. So people honestly, every 4 years, always ask how they're feeling. But when you look about 30% say their family finances are about the same, a quarter are better, 45 worse today. So this is one of those things that's really been top of mind for people, especially because inflation has just been this grinding problem for so long.
And do we have data on inflation? I thought we did. Okay.
Yeah, we do have an inflation number. In the last year, has inflation caused you and your family a severe hardship, no hardship, or a moderate hardship? This is a big number here. People who feel it.
74,
that's a big percentage of people who are voting saying that inflation is something that is still top of mind in their family.
I would just tell you, having recently been at a couple of key battlegrounds in Pennsylvania and Erie County, in North Carolina, in New Hanover County, talking to people about this exact issue, inflation. You know what you hear about again and again? The cost of burger meat, the cost of milk and eggs, and the cost of a gallon of gas, right? Because even as these macro numbers, as we've talked about, are adjusting, people still feel like every time they go to the grocery store, they're spending a ton.
And that's almost more important, right, Christine? Because it's not the number, it's not the percentage of where inflation is, it's how they feel every single day.
Absolutely. And when you look at grocery prices, for example, they're up 22% compared with 4 years ago, but the wages are up 20%. Just looking at wages alone, you're like, that's great, 20% bigger paycheck than 4 years ago. When the grocery bill is 22% more, that is a reminder every week or every 10 days for families that things aren't the same as they were the last time they were voting.
Christine, I'm going to let you get back to crunching the numbers. Chuck Todd next to us is already crunching.
What are y'all thoughts? I see you out of the storm. What are y'all thoughts? I see you, Joe Roganville. Are her numbers accurate? Saget says they need to make sure they fact check that. Me says because Trump is a businessman, that's why the economy was better. I see you out of the storm. Was her numbers accurate? Y'all let me know. Was her numbers accurate?
Voters in these early exit polls have an unfavorable opinion of the former president. Garrett, as you well know, though, the strategy for the Trump team has long been supercharge the base. Get that 44% who do see him favorably to actually show up and vote either today or during early voting.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. I remember a briefing with Trump campaign officials several months ago now in which they said by the time this race is over, both of these candidates will be unpopular. And that's broadly true. And Kamala Harris underwater as well in these polls, but not quite as badly. And I think that's going to be part of the challenge for the Trump campaign as we look at these early exit polls, which I should caution that the campaign was telling us sort of all week not to overinterpret them. And I think that's a worthy acknowledgement to make here. But they also wanted to use President Biden as an anchor around Kamala Harris's neck and essentially hope that Biden's unfavorability would drag down Kamala Harris. And the delta between Biden being far more unpopular than Kamala Harris is right now is the kind of thing that I think would be a warning sign to the Trump campaign about that messaging not being as effective as they'd like.
Garrett Haig, thank you very much, live for us down there in South Florida. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move over to my friend Peter Alexander. And Peter, let's take a look at the favorability for the vice president. Here it is. This is the first time we're seeing this. What we have here, the opinion of Kamala Harris, unfavorable 50%. Favorable 48%, unfavorable 50%, favorable 48%. Her unfavorable slightly lower than what former President Trump's was. Peter, talk to me about how the Harris campaign is feeling. I know you've been reporting all day about sort of their momentum and sort of maybe a changing of mood. They were feeling a bit more positive today.
Yeah, not just positive today. They've been feeling increasingly confident over the course of the last several days. Let's look at that favorability number, though, for a moment. And Kamala Harris, she performs better than both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. 4 points ahead of Donald Trump, 7 points ahead of Joe Biden. One of the concerns about Donald Trump had been that there was some sort of an evaporation, a memory gap, where Americans forgot the way they felt about Trump at the end of his term. Right now, his number's coming down. Her number is particularly high in their view right now, and higher than the man with whom she served, Joe Biden. So that's something they're feeling, I think, good about this evening. One other data point we'll share, we just heard from a senior campaign advisor. They're seeing some new information coming out of Pennsylvania, obviously the crucial battleground, the biggest prize of the swing states, with 19 electoral votes among Puerto Rican voters in the 3 wards with the largest Puerto Rican populations. As of midday today, the numbers were already at 79% of turnout in 2020, which is to say they believe Puerto Rican voters are turning up in big numbers, particularly notable as it comes only about a week and a half after those offensive comments by the comedian who led off for former President Trump at the Madison Square Garden.
What do y'all think? Do y'all think Trump has lost the Puerto Ricans because of that comment from that comedian? Do you think that Trump has lost the Puerto Rican votes because of that comment from that comedian?
We've gotten to know each other. Again, the road to 270, we're going to start tonight, election night, where we left off in 2020, except those 7 battleground states you see here are not colored in. Remember, President Biden won 6 of those 7 battlegrounds. So let's talk about Kamala Harris and her easiest path. Her easiest path tonight, if she holds that blue wall, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Hallie, you see the electoral votes there?
Right.
270, that gets her right to the White House. But if she were to have a terrible night tonight and the blue wall were to collapse and Trump were to win all this, she has another path. Nevada, Arizona, hold Georgia, and flip North Carolina. She gets to 275 there. Again, if this is the night for Democrats, Hallie, as you know, they'd be having heart attacks all night, but she can still get there with that path.
Talk about then former President Trump's clearest and cleanest path to 270.
The easiest way to remember this, Hallie, for President Trump when you're watching election night tonight, if he kicks it East Coast style. Pennsylvania, he wins Pennsylvania, flips that, holds North Carolina, and flips Georgia back red. If he does this, look at his number, 270, he gets there. But if something were to happen and he doesn't win Pennsylvania, he has to win somewhere else in the Midwest. This is important. There is no Sun Belt strategy for President Trump. He has to win somewhere in the blue wall. He has to break through. If he can flip hold North Carolina, flip Georgia. If he wins Michigan, if he just picks off Nevada or Arizona, either one gets him there, even the 6 in Nevada get him there. But if he can only win Wisconsin, he has to win Arizona. He needs those 11 electoral votes to get to 270.
Let me ask you about a possibility that we're not anticipating necessarily, but that could happen, and that is what if nobody gets to 270 and it's 269, 269, it's a tie?
That can happen. So listen, let me give the blue wall to.
That's a good question.
And you're going to say, Tom, are you crazy? She's at 270. I'm going to say, hold on. I'll give you all the Sun Belt states to President Trump. Remember, I told you he can't get there with that. He's at 268. So we come to Nebraska. Nebraska has that Where's Waldo effect right now on our map, and that's because Nebraska gives out their electoral votes by total vote, popular vote for the state, but also by congressional district. Maine does this as well. So there's 3 congressional districts. They each give 1. CD2, that's a battleground district in Nebraska. That's Omaha. Trump won it in 2016. If he wins it again, look what happens. 269 and 269, Hallie.
Wow.
What happens there? Do we go down that road?
Wow.
We can't go down the road, but we can say that road leads to Congress.
Are y'all listening?
Congress would essentially pick the president, the House, the Senate would pick the vice president.
You heard Tom lay out the importance of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
We'll take you there when we come back, breaking down how voters all across the country feel.
Are y'all listening? Salute Miss Wisdom. Salute Miss Wisdom Press. I see you down there. No says, he didn't. Say it. My question is, why does Puerto Rico still not want to be ratified as a state? I think that's a good question. Hold tight, y'all. Seth says, Tony never should have been on there. Haha. I feel like it might impact Trump, but he said some pretty crazy-ish too. But he disavowed that. Yeah, and see, that's what I keep saying when it comes to Trump, his mouth. And I know the Trump supporters, argue the character doesn't matter, Shank. It don't matter what he say out his mouth and this and that. It does. It does. Because as you could see with that comedian, and even though it wasn't Trump, but that comedian was at a Trump's rally. And we all know how that go. Like if somebody do something over here on my platform, who gets blamed? I get blamed. If somebody does something in your house, who gets blamed? You get blamed. And that's not the only comments that were made at a rally, but we got to be honest, Trump supporters. Trump has made some foul comments. Now, you know, I like the guy. I like Trump, but I got to call a spade a spade. In those comments that he have made towards people, it's coming back to bite him in the ass. Seth says exactly. Out of the Storm says, and the jokes were on teleprompter. The enemy, brother Nazir says, is constituency. Me says, if the electoral college is a tie, it will go to the popular vote, which will be interesting. Yes, sir. So that's why, for me, I was hoping that Trump could have just changed up his formula, changed up his strategy. He makes me laugh now. He makes me laugh. Now, the only issue that I got with him is when he tried to clown Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is off limits. I won't allow nobody to clown Michelle Obama. But y'all know he was ready to roast her. Me says, yes, sir. Miss Wisdom Press says, and his team is just as wild. The whole Haitian eating dogs and cats will. Right. That was uncalled for, Miss Wisdom Press. You know, me says, yup, true, my brother. That was uncalled for. Like, keep me laughing. You know what I mean? Keep me laughing. But you might not want to be talking about people, especially ethnic groups. You might not, because especially with black people. If y'all don't know, I hope y'all know by now, black people are very sensitive. We're very sensitive. Out of the Storm says he called Shell a nasty woman, but ain't no news on her on the internet. Correct, y'all. Let's get back to the coverage, y'all.
We are back now with our special election coverage, Decision 2024, right here on NBC News. We are just over an hour now from the first battleground polls closing, and we've got that exit poll data coming in showing what is driving voters on some of these key issues. We asked this question: which one of these 5 issues matter most in deciding how you voted for president? You can see it there. State of democracy at 35%, the economy following, abortion access after that, followed by immigration and foreign policy.
Yeah, and an interesting note that Chuck Todd just brought up, that in the state of democracy, when you dig a little deeper into that exit poll, it actually splits almost 50-50. So essentially, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, the way you look at this issue is different. And that doesn't tell us too much, but it's interesting that it's more important than the economy at this point.
What are y'all thoughts about this breakdown? What are y'all thoughts about this breakdown? Let me know, what are y'all thoughts? Are these numbers accurate?
On the issue of abortion, this is what we asked. Should it be legal in all cases, legal in most cases, legal in some cases? The first question is, who do you trust more to handle abortion? 50% for Kamala Harris, 44% for Trump. That's not a huge surprise. She was closing with abortion, traveling those battleground states with women, talking about the act.
Showed up in Texas, a state that has a very controversial abortion restriction law. Not because Texas is necessarily a battleground they think they're going to flip, but to be able to have that stage for that issue. Of course, former President Trump closed largely on immigration.
Okay, let's go to Pennsylvania right now. It is the key maybe to all the battleground states, the Keystone State. Jacob Soboroff on the ground for us in Pennsylvania. Jacob, tell us exactly where you are and what you're seeing tonight.
We're at Temple University, Tom, at a polling place that's got a 2-hour-long line. These folks have been waiting for 2 hours. I'm just going to make this short and sweet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different election machines over here. Let me split this line and tell you a little bit about what happened here. Earlier today, we reported how long the lines were. Well, the city of Philadelphia has showed up with 2 new election machines right now. These are going to get set up. The voters are going to be able to vote on them here. And hopefully those lines over there are going to go a little faster, guys.
Jacob Soboroff live for us there in Pennsylvania. Are we going to be saying the word Pennsylvania 150 times?
I think we're going to be saying it all night, maybe into tomorrow, that is for sure. So the first battleground polls close in about 90 minutes. We're going to take you there live as the key states start voting and we get the results in.
Then we're going to see 7:30, of course, polls closing in North Carolina, Ohio, and many more throughout the evening. Stay with us. We've got special live coverage right here. Decision 2024.
And of course, you all know I definitely will keep everybody updated. I definitely will be following this presidential race very close. Let's see what the chat is saying. Seth says, I dated a Haitian. They eat some pretty strange food, but they buy their stuff at Walmart. Miss Wisdom says, Seth, she hit him with this smiley emoji. Sagan says, you mean Michael, don't you think? Now, what is going to be the outcome, y'all. Do y'all think it will be close? Or do y'all have Trump winning by a landslide? Do y'all have Kamala winning by a landslide? Miss Wisdom says, thank you, Shank. Been at work all day and needed updates. You welcome. Me says, I just want a president that will look at the U.S. as the priority. There is too many wars and conflicts going on. I want our troops here. Protect our land first. I feel you, me. I feel you. I feel the same way, me. The Storm says, we still won't know tonight. Correct. We won't know tonight. We'll be updated, but we won't know tonight. I see you not on my watch. Appreciate you for pulling up. Talk to me not on my watch. Seth says so close. It's lit says, I think Kamala will win, but I voted for Trump. He's honest. It is honest. Seth says this will be contested. Do you think that Kamala, do you think that the Democrat side will cheat? Do you think that the Republican side will cheat? Let me know how y'all feel. Do you think both sides will cheat? Not on my watch says this is amazing. Appreciate you. I see you, Big Roast. I see you, Roast Toast. Salute, Roast. Roast says, I think Kamala gonna win. I don't want her, though. Salute, Sylvia. Salute, Sylvia. Seth says both sides will contest. Bet to whomever wins. Not on my watch says, will Trump have a temper tantrum? That's what I don't want to see. That's what I don't want to see. If Trump loses, if he loses, just go ahead, bow out gracefully. Be a good sport about it. You can't win them all. You know, now, was he cheated out of the last election? I don't know. I don't know. Will he get cheated out of this election? I don't know, y'all. Maybe y'all could help me understand. I don't know. Because some people might feel like Hillary might feel like she got cheated out of the 2016 election. She might feel like she won the popular vote. However, the electoral vote is what won it for him. So what are y'all thoughts? Not on my watch says he gonna run a play in Arizona again. Out of the Storm says he's never gonna do that. Miss Wisdom says Trump will do his old man dance and say whatever on the mic, then go to bed. It's interesting, y'all. It's very interesting. But we're here. We're here. And I'm going to congratulate both of them. Congratulations to both of them. May the best man or woman win. You know, it is what it is. I'm not a sore loser. I'm not a sore sportsman. You know, one of them got to win. One of them got to lose. It is what it is. Maybe if Trump would have kept away from, you know, his big mouth, maybe he would win. Who knows, y'all? VW says, as a foreigner and for all the comments I see, more than half the world would vote Trump. The Storm says, we ain't seen nothing yet. It's way early.
And listen, this is our first look at some of the numbers on who is voting and what matters to the people who are voting, even with some folks, maybe somebody you know, still out there in polling lines in every state across the country.
And this is really significant because this is the data we're just getting from actual voters as they leave those polling places. So it tells us a lot, more than any of the opinion polling we've seen in the last few weeks. So let's talk about the issues, right? What's taking voters to the polls? Here, voters were asked about the most important issue to them: the economy, abortion, foreign policy, immigration, and look at that, Hallie, 35% saying the state of democracy, 31% on the economy, and 14% on abortion. Again, we want to say this is the first wave of exit poll data. We want to be real careful about this. This was in 10 battleground states, but this is huge.
600 polling places across the country, early, in-person, mail-in, and election day of. That grain of salt is well noted, Tom, because these numbers could shift a little bit. But here's why this is so surprising and why we're pausing on that 35% on state of democracy. Because all along, and you know this for months, the economy has been the top issue that voters said would be driving them to the polls. And usually immigration was right up there in the top two, followed by abortion access. You can see here abortion there, 14% of voters say it was the most important issue to them, with immigration trailing. Now, again, these numbers could shift a little bit, but one other note on state of democracy, Tom. that can cut both ways. There are Republicans who are concerned about state of democracy. There are Democrats who say they're concerned about state of democracy.
Let's talk about this other exit poll. Who do you trust more to handle the economy? And remember, the president, he closed on immigration and the economy. Former President Trump, 51% saying Trump, 47% for Harris. We thought this divide might be bigger, and this may change as the night goes on, but that's not terrible news for Democrats right now.
No, the other piece of this is the issue that Vice President Harris largely closed on, and that is abortion access. Who do you trust more to handle abortion? It is no surprise here to see that she is leading on trust on this issue over former President Trump.
Yeah, it was a big issue. She was traveling with women all throughout states like Michigan, Pennsylvania to make sure she got that message out as well. Again, not a huge surprise here. And again, this could change, but this one right here likely will stand.
Donald Trump, of course, closing on immigration. This is a message that he has hammered now for months with his rhetoric on migrants in this country and on trust on immigration. Here he leads, again, consistent with the public polling that we've seen. But I want to bring in NBC's Chuck Todd now because, Chuck, there's some interesting stuff here with all of the noted caveats, with all of the warnings. We don't want to overread into it. Like, let's be super clear on that. But talk me through your takeaway.
Well, look, I think the biggest thing is the fact that when you take economy and immigration, which are the two strongest issues for President Trump, and the fact that they're not, neither one of them's the top issue. If you're in Mar-a-Lago right now, that makes you a little bit nervous. And I look, state of democracy.
Although I bet Mar-a-Lago would tell you we're not too.
Of course, because that's you always have to always be projecting confidence on there. I get it, but when you look at the fact that obviously abortion rights ahead of immigration, that had not. By the way, that has been going back and forth in all of our polling. A lot of times it's how do you ask that question, and of course when we had been asking voters if there's a single issue you would vote on more than any other in polling, that has been abortion rights. We didn't ask a question like that. But the state of democracy question is interesting to me because, look, I'm going to confess here, I don't think we're asking the right, I think we're giving the right punch to voters.
You're saying broadly for
correct, because if you think about it, we've offered them 5 specific issues. 4 specific issues: foreign policy, immigration, abortion, and the economy. And then we say, state of the democracy.
Yeah.
So if you're
who doesn't want democracy?
Correct. So if you're a voter that says, I'm really motivated by sort of the current climate, right? Whatever that is. There's so many different ways you can describe it, but that tells you it's not a single issue that's getting you to the polls. You're reacting to the climate. There's a group of voters on both sides here that believe their way of life is on the ballot, right? Who are we as Americans?
It's fundamental.
Correct. This is not to be dismissive of the single issues, but there's a micro campaign specific on those issues, and then there's the macro, who are we as Americans, right? And I think what we're finding out here is that maybe we need a better punch for people, but that's the way I view it. And when you look at the splits on this, not to give away too much, but when you look on the splits and you realize that it's a 50-50 essentially on which side of the aisle you're on, it tells me that's who those voters are. These are my way of life is on the ballot.
We've been talking about the gender divide since we've been talking about early voting and how voters may break for either candidate. Here we have it right here, Chuck. State of democracy, 36% for men, 33% for women. The economy, 34, 28. Abortion, 8, 19, and then immigration, 12, 10. Again, this is early. This might seem a little odd to viewers at home watching and looking at this thinking this is the most important issue, but this is the data we have right now.
It is, and early data. I've been here. There's a running joke on Twitter already. This is the 20th anniversary of John Kerry's inauguration. Right, early exit polls. Were so sunny for him. So any of us that have experienced that, you take it all with a grain of salt here. But if this is how voters were thinking about this election, if this is the makeup. It's certainly something you'd rather be the Team Harris. This is what they would want to see versus what Team Trump is.
Keep in mind, both candidates, right, over the course of the last month or so, nodded to this issue of who we are fundamentally, with very different visions that they had, right? Former President Trump, the country is in a dangerous and broken place, and he's the person who can come in and fix it. Vice President Harris, it will be more dangerous if Donald Trump is reelected, and she's the one who can represent that fresh start for people who might be exhausted.
Well, and it's interesting, if you want to look in the exit poll and say, boy, what is the evidence that Trump's doing well? Well, by the way, Joe Biden's job rating is really low in here, 41%. That's very low. People are dissatisfied with the direction of the country. But just like with state of democracy, you could view the direction of the country negatively because of Donald Trump's existence, in the political scene, and that may be why you picked that number. And I think we're seeing some evidence of that too. So, look, I do think what this exit poll is saying, and what I really believe this is a macro election. This is an election about who we are. This is not about the economy and inflation. Certainly, they've been the mood music of the conversation, but the voters what this is telling me is They went in there with a much bigger concern about the direction of the country.
Yeah, and it's still very early. It's actually just getting started. But we do have some interesting data on the economy. Christine Romans has been digging into that, which sort of gives us a better idea of what voters are thinking.
That's right, and it is early. Think of these as breadcrumbs, and way down the line, we're going to know how this election is going to turn out. But these are the little signals that we're getting here early, and they could change, and we could get more of them. But the bottom line at the very early hour here is that people feel pretty lousy about the economy. Not so good, 35%. Poor, 34%. That is a big number on the condition of the U.S. economy. When you ask people about their family finances compared to 4 years ago, I mean, that's the question you ask every 4 years, right? Also, think about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, there was a pandemic. 4 years ago, people were wearing masks to vote. People were changing how they voted and how they lived their lives because of a public health crisis, right? So a very different scenario this time around. Only 30% say it's about the same today. 24% say better. 45% say it's worse today in terms of their family finances. So we know there's been this negative mood music, Chuck, for months now about inflation, about the overall feeling of the economy, even as all the top line numbers, Hallie and Tom, have remained really strong.
Christine, but before you go, do we know if Harris was able sort of to detach herself?
Salute, Jamie. I see you, Jamie. Salute, 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 Jamie. Appreciate you for pulling up. Look, y'all, it's going down. It's going down. All right. I appreciate everybody for pulling up. It's about to go down. Congratulations to Kamala Harris. Congratulations to Donald Trump. Not on my watch says this is going to be interesting. Yes. Seth says state of our democracy. I don't get. I hate how in this election they are saying that if Trump wins, it will be the end of our democracy. It makes no sense for me. Whomever wins, it's democracy. Here's my take on it, all right? And please, no profanity in the chat, y'all. Please, no profanity in the chat. If you got to use the S word, take the S off and say ish, all right? Jamie says, definitely look forward to the outcome. Devon says, I don't want Trump to win. Not on my watch says, Shank, don't be crying if Trump don't win. Hey, I want to tell y'all whether or not I voted, and I want to tell y'all if I voted, who I voted for, but I'm going to wait till tomorrow. Now, you know what? Because if I wait till tomorrow, then y'all could say, Shank, you lying. You really voted for so-and-so, but because so-and-so won, you just going along with the person that won. Nah, you good, me. I'm going to just keep it real with y'all. I didn't vote. Now, on tomorrow, I'll give y'all my reasons why I didn't vote, but I didn't vote. At first, I was going to vote for Trump. And you all know that. Y'all was throwing shoes and hot dogs and hamburgers and all kind of stuff at me when y'all heard that I was going to vote for Trump. Seth says I didn't vote either. Not on my watch says, So after the presidential debate, remember, I said, I got to see that presidential debate. After the presidential debate, I changed my mind. I was going to vote for Kamala. But Obama and Kamala, they messed it up for me. When Obama came out, 2 weeks ago, and tried to call out black men for not voting for Kamala because she's a woman, that left a bad taste in my mouth. When Kamala came all of a sudden with that Harris opportunity agenda for just black men, all of a sudden, it left a bad taste in my mouth. So I was like, I can't vote for her. What did it for me about Trump, about not voting for Trump, and I said this on the demonstration, when those white Trump supporters attacked that black Trump supporter, and Trump didn't even at least speak out about it. So that's why I didn't choose to vote for Trump. That's why I didn't choose to vote for Kamala. All right. Salute everybody. I appreciate all of y'all for pulling up. I'll see y'all later on. I'll probably go on the backup channel After Dark with Shank. So make sure y'all subscribe to my After Dark with Shank channel. And if you haven't subscribed to it, go to my community wall. Go to my community wall and you'll see the After Dark with Shank. Go ahead and subscribe. And also we got some content creators in here, not on my watch. Miss Wisdom Press. Make sure y'all subscribe to them. There's some more content creators in here. Make sure y'all subscribe to those content creators that is on my community wall. Salute everybody, and I'll see y'all later on. Miss Parker got an interview coming up, and also Lucky is going to be interviewing Miss Parker. So Miss Parker got 2 interviews. She's going to be doing an interview on her channel, and then she's going to be interviewed by Lucky. Look, everybody, salute. I appreciate all of y'all. I appreciate all of y'all, and I'll see y'all with the next update. Salute. Make sure y'all hit the like button.